going to start with a quick round of intros. I am Rich. I work with the Rebuy team here. I have been with the company for about 3 years. Started on the account management side, so working with some of our biggest logos, and recently made the switch over to agency partnerships. So if you're an agency and you're looking to, set your clients' stores on fire in terms of the amount of money we can make them, let me know. I've also got the lovely Rachel here joining us from Okendo. Let's start with a quick intro. Tell us about yourself, where you're from, what do you do, all that good stuff.
Hi, everyone. And I'll just back that up. We love our agencies in the Shopify ecosystem. They're the best. I'm Rachel Tyers. I'm the SVP of Marketing and Partnerships at Okendo. I've been in e-commerce and digital for, I want to say, like 15 years now. It's been a while. I might be aging myself there. Previously, I started out my career as a Facebook media buyer. I moved into partnerships. I was the VP of Partnerships at Mute 6, who was the largest direct response advertiser on Facebook at the time. And then I co-founded a headless e-commerce platform, Nasal. And I've been at Okendo for 5 years. Shall I tell you a little bit about Okendo?
I was going to say, yes, for those that don't know, please tell us about what Okendo is, what you guys specialize in, and we can dive right in there.
Yeah, so a little bit about Okendo. We specialize in reviews, loyalty, quizzes, surveys, and referrals for brands on Shopify. So we work with 16,000 merchants.
Sorry, how many?
16,000.
Slay.
Yeah, notice the typo up there. That's how quickly things change at Okendo. It was 15,000 accurately when we put this slide together. It's 16,000 now. So we are a Google partner. We're partnered with Meta and TikTok as well. We're very much known for having the best integrations with all of the top Shopify apps. We have affordable month-to-month pricing. We have the best looking widgets and fastest loading widgets. So all of those good things that merchants love, providing the tools that help them to capitalize on their customer relationships.
So capitalizing a couple of customer relationships, I love that. And one of the things, the main theme of what we're talking about here is, building super fans and what that means. I think, a lot of brands, obviously they use star reviews and UGC and all of that. That's one component of it. But when we talk about super fans, what do you mean by that?
So we use the term super fans a lot at Okendo. I even have slides for it.
Yes.
So we're really looking at building those customer relationships and people that already love your product. How do we maximize that love that they have for it? How do we create a two-way dialogue between you and the customer? How do you capture more customer data points? And then how do you leverage those raving super fans to gather more customers for your brands? So that's how we've thought about building out the Okendo product suite. It obviously started with reviews, and then we added surveys, we added quizzes, we added referrals, and then most recently we added loyalty. So for every touch point that you might have with that customer, Okendo essentially has a tool to help you maximize that engagement.
And so, what does that look like in terms of the on-site experience? I mean, we know what the stars look like, but when you create more of that conversational dialogue between your customers, how can you leverage that in terms of an acquisition tool for even more customers?
Oh yeah, acquisition. That's such a hot topic right now. I guess it always has been. But in my day of Facebook media buying and in my day of the ads agency, Facebook was still a pretty reliable source of customer acquisition at a reliable and affordable cost. I think times have changed quite a lot, and a lot of the conversations that I'm having now with brands are about their margins getting a little bit squeezed because the cost of acquisition is high because there are so many competitors out there on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, competing for those eyeballs, and so that's obviously pushing up prices for those ad spaces. And then we just got to think about how that works with your margins. You want to be able to become positive on that customer acquisition cost. So a way that we look at doing that is leveraging that content that you're collecting from existing customers. So one of my top tips is adding star ratings to Google Shopping ads. This is such a no-brainer, but I'm still shocked to see that a lot of brands haven't leveraged star ratings. So this is A simple example of, you see, I've searched for shapewear bodysuit, and Skims, who's one of Okendo's clients, is pushing through their star rating aggregate to their product listing ads. As you can see, Spanx isn't doing it. We have Net-a-Porter over here, who's also not pushing through their star ratings. And so just knowing consumer behavior and knowing the numbers and the data from Google, Skims is going to get more click-throughs on their product listing ads. So something very simple. You've got the customer data. You've got those aggregate star ratings anyway. Push them through to your other channels. And then, of course, make sure that you have really beautiful widgets on your site. This is something that Okendo does really well. Our widgets are very customizable, so it fits the look and feel of your brand. By having a fantastic customer widget that's really robust and demonstrating or displaying customer data, you're allowing your shoppers to align their purchase decisions with people that have similar characteristics to them. So if I have a dry skin type, and I most certainly do in Vegas, and medium skin tone, then I'm going to look at Isabella's review here, see that she loves the formula, it works for her, and then I'm going to be more likely to convert. So really simple tactic to maximize those conversions on site.
Well, and I want to touch on that because I think there's something to be said about people want to buy from other people. People don't always want to buy from a brand specifically. They don't want to hear from the brand how great their product is. And I love what you said there in terms of, you know, I want to buy something from somebody who has either the same skin condition or the same concern with their hair or whatever that looks like. If it works for them, I know it's going to work for me. But one thing that I'm curious about is, like, we know the brands like Skims and Ilia and all of this. How do you get to the point where people are leaving reviews? Let's say you're a brand new company. You don't have those reviews yet. What's the play there to get people to want to leave a review in the first place? Other than obviously having an incredible product, but I feel oftentimes some people will go out of their way more often than not to leave a bad review than to go out of their way to leave a positive review. So how do you get to that point to get people to want to become a super fan, let's say?
Yeah, I've got a few tips on that. So obviously you're going to collect more reviews if you're offering a coupon. So you might offer 10% off for someone that leaves you a review that's just text only. Maybe it's 15% off if someone leaves you a photo review. Maybe it's 20% off if they leave you a video review. You then own all of that customer content and you can leverage it wherever you want to, beyond your customer website, the widget here. Another tip that I would give you is to send it out across multiple channels. With that review request, it doesn't need to be just through email. You could have email and SMS. We integrate very nicely with Attentive and Postscript and Klaviyo. We love working with those partners. Shout out to those guys. And then, something that I've seen working really nicely recently is a giveaway. So some brands don't want to offer coupons, their percentage off discounts, and that's fine. I say, like, run a giveaway where you're doing a $500 promo that you give away once per month. I've seen that generate a ton of reviews. And then you mentioned if you're a brand new brand. So
like if you're starting from ground zero.
Ground zero. So you could have people testing your product and send out a targeted send to those customers or, you know, friends and family, and have them leaving real reviews. Or if you haven't started with reviews yet, but you have a little bit of order history, you can do a look back. So just set up your review request sequence from the date in the past that you actually started sending out product, and you can reach out to all of those customers in a really simple, seamless way.
Well, and what's cool with that is, like, so I'm wondering, and correct me if this is not possible, but if it isn't, maybe it's a feature request. But what I'm thinking is, like, you know, you can incentivize customers to leave a review by, let's say, giving them early access to a launch. If you don't want to discount your products or say, save 10% off your next order, whatever that looks like. I love the idea of being able to, let's say, tag a customer once they've left a review, and then leveraging something like Rebuy, for example, to use that customer tag to offer exclusive promos for your super fans or for your loyal customers, right? So whether that means, you know, early access to a collection that hasn't quite launched yet. So the idea of being able to play with multiple things in your tech stack, I think, is super important. But that can also be overwhelming when it comes to a merchant having to maintain that on their own. So I know that you guys have a customer marketing platform that helps to, like, simplify this. So when it comes to managing your reviews and, you know, paying attention to Meta and Google and your online store, how does Okendo make that easier for the customer?
Well, something that I've latched onto in what you said that I think is a really good idea that's like set off the light bulb in my head is tagging customers and giving them early access to promos or new products or something like that. And that's a really good play for loyalty. So we like to tier out our loyalty programs based on your customer data. And that's a way that Okendo is really approaching loyalty differently to a lot of the tech players out there. We're not just handing you the tools, we're handing you the tools and the strategy and making sure that you're successful. And so something that we love doing, and I'll probably touch on this later, is adding a VIP tier or a secret tier. And you can have those tagged customers getting access to those interesting perks from Rebuy via that loyalty program. So that's a really great idea.
And I love what you said there about the VIP tier. I think a lot of people, when we think about strategies like this, they think about, again, commoditizing their brand, or I don't know, it can look a little, especially if we're dealing with, like, let's say a brand in the luxury space. They don't want to look like that kind of a brand. But the way that you can do this is by creating even just, a members only platform, or you create this kind of exclusivity behind it where it's not just like leave a review and save 10%. You almost kind of create this like community around your brand and those loyal customers where, again, I've seen a lot of brands now with, things like TikTok Live and all of that, where people will just jump on to be able to talk to other people that buy those products. So being able to build community around your brand, I think also really helps to tell that story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can incentivize actions through your loyalty program. So having people follow you on TikTok so that they get those announcements of your live streams in real time, and you can award them loyalty points. So it's this like beautiful community building, product that you're able to create this unique customer experience that's going to fit your brand.
Well, and I think also meeting your customers where they're at is super important. And I love that you guys aren't just specifically for the online store. You can carry those reviews to wherever your customers prefer to shop. I mean, depending on your demographics, some people do shop from Facebook ads. Some people prefer TikTok. Some people prefer Instagram. So again, understanding your customer base, I think, is the key to them feeling seen and also not sold at. You know what I mean? So in terms of a brand, what sort of metrics should people be looking at when it comes to measuring the success of their loyalty?
Well, speaking of meeting customers where they're at, I've got a slide here for that.
Whoa.
Something that I love to do is leveraging your customer content that is real and authentic in your paid media. It's something that I did a lot of when I was working in the media buying space. And you can see here, these are real reviews from real people that were left via Okendo. We've got like the best smelling body wash I've ever used from Salt and Stone. What have I got here? Something from Canopy about my skin before using the viral shower head, and that was collected from UGC. So we love this sort of thing. And then, of course, Lemmy from Kourtney Kardashian over there. So something that's really easy for you to do. And like I said, you own all of that customer content. Now, in terms of metrics that you should be looking at, I love to see your AOV, how that compares to your customer base that isn't part of the loyalty program. So you might see your loyalty members actually come back and purchase from you more often. So sometimes there's a random lower AOV where you think this seems counterintuitive, but make sure you're checking out how frequently those customers are purchasing from you. Otherwise, naturally, I see a lot of increased AOV because these are super fans of your brand that are highly engaged. And even though they may be purchasing often, they're purchasing more as well because they're so into what you're doing.
They'll like buy the one product initially, and then they come back and they spend 3 times more because they're like, well, I want all of this, right? So things like email marketing and retargeting and all that play a huge part in getting them to come back, but also getting them to spend more. So I love that you're like, okay, you gotta look at the whole story here because the AOV might be lower, but the frequency in which they're purchasing increases, right?
Right, exactly. And then something that we'll always look at is, are your customers referring you? Like, there's no better recommendation than one from a friend or family member that you trust. I think.
And so tell us about that, because again, I think that it's almost like everyone can become an affiliate of a brand with the right program in place, right?
Exactly. And then that kind of circles back to how we were talking about customer acquisition costs being pretty high, and that's squeezing the margins of our merchants. So by implementing a really effective customer referral program, you can leverage that to have people referring you into their friends. And it's oftentimes, most often, lower cost than you'd be paying for your CPA on Facebook or over on Instagram. And so that's a really good way to measure how engaged your audience is as well.
Love it. And I think that, the key here, obviously, I think of what we're kind of tapping into with superfans, that personalized approach is so important. And I think, again, with something like Rebuy, I mean, just for anybody that might not even be familiar with Rebuy, so what we're able to do is take traditional static recommendations that, I compare it like going into a shoe store and somebody holding up one shoe and hoping that everyone that walks through wants to buy that. Chances are you might find one person, but again, if you can anticipate the needs of what your clients need, even before they know sometimes, right? So in terms of like retargeting and stuff like that, how do you see this factoring into, again, getting those repeat purchases in terms of like marketing, kind of the acquisition, but when we're talking about like integrating with things like Klaviyo, do you see a lot of people sending emails with the review as almost kind of the marketing material, if that makes sense?
Yeah, a lot of the time. And we have an integration with Klaviyo that allows you to sync over your most recent five-star reviews and add that as a widget to any Klaviyo email. Or you can sync in those aggregate star ratings so that if you have a product recommendation email, you can sync across and have that customer content right there in front of the customer or shopper that allows them to take more action. But personalization is something I fangirl over. I love it. I fangirl over Rebuy as well. You guys are doing such good things. And as a shopper, I love visiting a website that has Rebuy installed. I'm always going to be spending more to make sure I get to that free shipping margin. And I like to see the recommendation widget. And when it comes to your recommendation widget, we sync our star rating into that as well. So it's beautiful. It's seamless.
Period. We're telling the whole story here.
Right.
But I love that. And I think, once your customers start to experience an online store experience like that, where again, it feels like they're being spoken to, not sold at, I think that right there is kind of a differentiator that people come to expect. So when we're talking about personalization, it's not enough to just call somebody by their name anymore. No one cares. If you're not doing that already, it's like we're already on to the next thing. It's like brands we're sustainable. Well, I hope so in 2025, So in terms of building a loyalty program, like what can brands do to stand out? There's so much competition. So it's like, what are some of the things that you've seen where you're like, oh, that's a great idea?
Yeah, well, I'll add one more thing to the personalization element. When it comes to Klaviyo or Attentive, you can sync across that customer data that we were looking at from the reviews widget, like skin type, skin tone, skin concern, and you can create segments based on that information in Klaviyo or in Attentive, or you can sync them over to PostScript and then send personalized recommendations based on that unique customer's needs.
Yeah.
So like you said, we expect it these days. I don't want to get recommendations for someone with oily skin when I have dry skin.
Yeah, totally.
And then when it comes to the loyalty program aspect, I would say a lot of brands make mistakes here. I think I don't want to blame the brands because they've been led astray. You can't have like a one size fits all loyalty program or set and forget it. Like, that's why we're doing things differently. We're really doing a deep dive into the data. We're figuring out what your tiers should look like, what the points should be to get to the next tier, what's going to maximize your revenue, what's going to make sure it's not encroaching on your subscription customers and it's rewarding them, not detracting from them, So I would say if you've tried loyalty before and it hasn't worked for you, don't give up. You might have just not had the right guidance to do it well. For example, shout out to Dixon. Well, actually, I have a slide on Dixon. Let's see. So Dixon was...
walk us through some of these because I'm like looking at the screen. I'm like, this is pretty badass.
Yeah. So Dixon was... with Smile.io, they were never able to actually get their program live because they had too many issues with not wanting to offend their customer base. We can talk more about this offline.
Yeah, we'll be floating around after if you want to get the nitty gritty.
But yeah, then they ended up moving over to Okendo. We did all of this customer data profiling. We integrated it really seamlessly with the rest of their stack. They have a unique VIP tier where only their top customers get access to these limited edition flannel drops. And this brand, they're a dark horse. They do about 100 mil of GMV. Like, this is really important. And they've built such a community. and to be able to hold their hand and have them launch a program that they were really confident in and felt really good about it, and then to see the results on the other side has been so powerful.
Well, it's also like, I love this as a DILF member.
Oh my God,
like
the DILF
again,
fam.
but like this is so important in terms of your brand identity. You've got to be consistent across your channels, wherever you're selling. I mean, again, with something like this, you know, the way that you speak to your brand, your customers is so important. Companies like Dude Wipes, for example, their marketing is borderline offensive half the time, but it works. It speaks to them. They've got loyal fans because of that consistent approach, right? So in terms of, again, so some of these strategies here, it's like, again, as a DILF member versus like, save 10% just for, you know, da-da-da-da. So it's like, there's different ways that you can approach this. I love the idea of points. So tell me a little bit more about that strategy as well. In terms of how people can leverage things like points, well, again, I'm more curious about some of these strategies because, again, loyalty to me, it's like, I think of the obvious ones, right? So when it comes to points, what are the different kind of structures, I guess you could say, that brands can choose from when setting up loyalty programs?
Yeah, there aren't a ton of limitations. This is Sabo. They're a really big Australian brand. Oh, you might notice my thick Australian accent. I'm a big fan of this brand. So they have a pretty basic setup here of 3 levels and then the extra 4th VIP level. They have spend based on, or points based on spend. And then, you know, we have other clients that will put like on level 2 of this spend, you get like 1.2 points versus 1, and maybe at level 3 it's 1.5 points. So you don't have to blow out your points, especially if you might end up with like Venezuelan inflation, like 80,000 points to redeem a gift bag or whatever it might be. But yeah, I would just say think about your brand, think about your customer base, think about what kinds of products you might be able to offer as bonuses or how people might want to redeem their points and what kind of bonus experiences can you build in to the loyalty program, like pop-ups or community events or meeting with the founders or
community events. That is a really cool one. I think if you've got the bandwidth and the budget, bring all of your loyal fans together, right? I think, again, there's this play where for a while there, it was all of these big celebrities endorsing products or, you know, these huge influencers, but again, now that we kind of can see behind the curtain, it kind of dilutes it a little bit. So brands are now more keen to work with these micro influencers that are genuine, that maybe only have 1,000 followers, but 1,000 followers that listen and pay attention. So even something like this here, join Sabo Resort, 300 points, go. I love the idea of creating the journey for the customer to become a loyal fan and get rewarded along the way.
Yeah, and then make sure you have your email and SMS strategy set up to really communicate with your customers at each point of that journey. So how many points they have currently, how they can redeem them, maybe how many points it's going to take to get to the next level. Maybe it's like a birthday reward as well, like these little things that are really meaningful, but it's not just set and forget and you're not forgetting to promote the program. It needs to be top of mind for your customers so that they want to opt in and they want to continue being part of your community.
So don't assume that your customers know how to go through that journey, kind of guide them through it. So, okay, we'll wrap this up with one quick question. What is one thing a brand could do today to build superfans tomorrow?
I would say leverage your customer voices. So however that may be, oftentimes the easiest way is to put your customer reviews into ads. But also we've got some new AI stuff here. You can implement AI summaries. So I know AI is very topical right now. Everyone wants to see how it's going to change their jobs and make their lives easier. But something super simple that not many people are doing yet is leveraging AI summaries so that your shoppers don't need to troll through 50,000 reviews. If you're using Okendo and collecting lots of them, they can see that shoppers say good things and maybe a concern or two in there, but like the overall impact of what the customer sentiment has been around your products. And that can help reduce the decision fatigue and help improve those fast conversions, which we love.
And I love this because I think, I mean, even search engines now, you go on Facebook, you go to the comment section, it just summarizes the overall sentiment that people have. I think it's very easy, or it can look like brands at points maybe favor the 5-star reviews, or they only put the positive ones. So to get something that does point out, you know, this didn't work for this person because of XYZ, that almost gives me more confidence to want to buy something if I know that not everybody's saying it's perfect. If people tell me there are some errors in terms of that, I'll do a little bit more research before I actually purchase something, but I feel more confident in buying it knowing that I'm getting a proper review from, you know, a number of different people.
Definitely. Like, don't just publish only 5-star reviews. Make sure that you're publishing, I mean, I would say publish all of them that are relevant to that product. If you're getting bad reviews about your shipping or your checkout experience or something in the review, don't worry about it. It's not relevant to that product. But actually, conversions peak between 4.2 and 4.7 on a star rating aggregate. I don't want to say like fix your star reviews, but like you said, Rich, make sure that you're producing or publishing what people really think of that product, and that's going to reduce your returns.
And like, do you think it's relevant to reply to comments or reply to reviews? Like, how does one manage something like that? Because that can be pretty cumbersome if you're getting tens of thousands of reviews. How do you engage back while not, you know, needing a full-time job around that?
Yeah, it's really great for creating community and showing your customers that you're listening. If you don't have a ton of time, something you could do is respond to negative comments.
Yeah, okay.
And you could turn that into a positive experience. Or we could do a little something around AI generated responses.
Yeah. Always comes back to AI. Yeah.
Doesn't it? These
Well, I
days.
wonder, like, there's got to be something there that says, like, you know, if the sentiment of the review is this, leave this kind of a comment, or leave it a comment in this tone. Who knows? Maybe we're inventing something right now.
Yeah, well, you can do it all in your brand voice as well.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
it's great.
Amazing. Well, if anybody has any questions, we would love to answer them for you. We'll be floating around here for a little bit as well, so feel free. But I just want to give a big thank you to Rachel and the team at Okendo. We absolutely love working with you guys. And obviously, as you can see, it's a kind of a match made in heaven, really. So yeah, please check out Okendo. Please check out Rachel. Find us on LinkedIn. Find us online. Find us Meta, Facebook. Anywhere that Okendo is where we'll be. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rich.